How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Well, my royal family, I want to talk a bit about the immigrant children that are coming. A lot of them are coming to America alone. And you see the title that I have. Yes, that is true and real correct. Literally, $60 million per week is being spent in America to house these children. And this is where me personally, I'm in agreement with Trump on those policies about immigrants coming here. Children here alone in America, all races of children here alone, because I have done my deep research on that long ago, are homeless. And those issues are not being addressed. But certain images are being put out to pull on our heartstrings. Let me show you something here. Okay, something like this. You'll see something like this. How many more migrant children have to die before anyone does anything? And it is quite overwhelming. And I remember a while back, Trump was talking about they're pouring in. And it's absolutely true, to the point that these parents are literally dumping their children in America, and this country is doing everything they can to accommodate. And so we're dealing with a lot of dynamics. Coronavirus is the number one. So they got to be tested for that. And any group situation anywhere in the world is like a death wish, let alone dealing with this. So I'm not conflicted. Y'all know I'm going to keep it core. And there's a bunch of dual things going on. And this is really, in Biden's presidency, making him look real bad. So you demonstrating that you can spend over $60 million per week for housing. You give the Asian community $50 million or more. And then in the royal family, you say disproportionately, we are getting coronavirus more than anyone, and you don't put a dime in our community. Not one damn dime. But you can accommodate others. And then you want to try to put a guilt trip on the royal family, if we say anything, because our royals suffer every millisecond. So we're going to go on this journey, my royal family. I have 4 videos that I'm going to present. One audio and 3 videos. So let's get into this first audio, my royal family.
And now, more from NPR.
Wait a minute.
Federal statistics now show the highest number of migrants detained at the U.S.-Mexico border in 15 years. This is a monthly tally from the Biden administration. 172,000 people were apprehended trying to cross the border in a single month. And that includes a record number of children and teenagers traveling without a parent, the most ever in a single month, in fact. And we'll talk these numbers through with NPR White House correspondent Franco Ordonez. Franco, good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
Wow, 172,000 people apprehended at the border. What does that mean?
Well, so those are the people who came into contact with Border Patrol agents. Obviously, there are people who make it across illegally, who do not come into contact with law enforcement. But these are the apprehension numbers, and they're used as a marker to show specifically how much illegal immigration there is. And that 172,000 number also includes nearly 19,000 children and teenagers who were traveling without a parent. That was the most ever in a single month. And it really just shows the scope of this challenge for President Biden as he seeks to enforce the border while also implementing a more humane policy that includes overhauling the nation's asylum system. You know, the Biden administration is defending their response. They're emphasizing that the border is not open. Officials told us, or some of us reporters, that more than 60% of those apprehended are being turned back. They're being turned back because of Title 42. That's the health order implemented by the Trump administration aimed at limiting the spread of the coronavirus. And they say a large number, also nearly 30%, were migrants who had previously been turned back, and they're trying again. And they basically make the case that skews the numbers a bit.
So there's so much to follow up on here. First, you mentioned that thing about the border not being open. This is a common refrain of the president's critics, that there are open borders. 172,000 people apprehended in a month. It's obviously a lie. It's a lie every single time you're ever told there are open borders. A total lie. But then there's the matter of why people are coming in the time of this new president. The president's own words have been blamed for some of the people being attracted to the United States. What does the administration say is the reason so many people are coming?
Yeah, they say there are a few factors. They note the influx has been rising since April of last year, well before President Biden was elected. They cite long-standing factors such as poverty and food insecurity in Central America. They also note that there have been some new factors, including 2 recent hurricanes. And of course, there has been widespread unemployment due to the pandemic. Now, they didn't talk about this today, but the administration has previously acknowledged some of their own role here, citing the pent-up demand for a more humane policy that would impact some of the timing of this influx, but not be the driver of migration, forcing people to leave their countries. But, officials told us reporters that they have made significant progress, citing these rules that they've been doing, and they caution that this is not going to be fixed overnight.
Very briefly, what is the administration going to do with 19,000 more unaccompanied minors who came across in a single month?
Well, this has been a major challenge for Biden. They have clearly made a much stronger approach with adults than with children. But, unlike the Trump administration, the Biden administration is not turning away children at the border, and they're going to do everything they can to take care of them.
Franco, thanks for the update. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
NPR White House correspondent
So
Franco
my royal
Ordonez.
family, keep in close mind what you just heard, that last part of it, where he said that the Biden administration is not sending anyone back. Okay, just keep that on your frontal lobe. Now, before I get into the next, because I'm getting into the next video, let me get over here. So there's some, like I said, there's some dual things that are going on. They're saying that, I have heard stories that the cartel is so horrible that people want to get out and stuff, and now hearing that there's some natural disasters that have happened. And what I was thinking about a while ago was that something is being orchestrated in the beginning as they are migrating to these places. Somebody is funding it somewhere, somehow. I mean, I seen a group of Mexican people with shirts that said Biden. I seen people that had backpacks that had water and food and stuff. And I remember when Trump was in office, one guy said, y'all gonna take care of us. We gonna get those benefits and everything. But then when they had that mass shooting almost on the border of Texas and Mexico, a lot of them packed up and left. See, they have that option. So let's keep that on our frontal lobe. And so it's a dual thing going on. Parents are using their children to get over here, what do they call them? Like a woman to be pregnant and she'll birth her child in America. Those are anchor babies. So there's a lot of different things going on. But when you're dealing with a delicate situation like this with children, it pulls on people's heartstrings. But no one gives a damn the pain and plight that our royals have to deal with right here in America. there are our royal babies living in the streets of America. So as we continue on.
Lisa's leading a delegation to Texas for a first-hand look to see if Nancy Pelosi is actually right. So how the Biden policy is working at the border. Does she even believe what she just said, Congressman?
Brian, I don't know how she could even say that with any credibility, because if you talk to anybody on the ground, and I've talked to a lot of people that have been on the ground, it is beyond a disaster what they've done, not only to these border towns, the mayors, you hear them, Democrat and Republican, expressing outrage over what President Biden created. Joe Biden created this crisis, but the child abuse and neglect that's going on. It's not just the 20-plus day treks that some of these young kids are taking, 10 years old in many cases. They're being, the girls, over a third of the girls are being sexually assaulted or raped along the journey. Then they get to the United States, and you've seen how they're being treated, not given proper food and shelter, being put next to somebody 6 inches apart with COVID. All this is going on the border. You can see why Vice President Kamala Harris either doesn't want to have this dumped in our lap because Joe Biden created the mess and is asking her to mop it up, or else she's in over her head. Either way, it doesn't bode well for the United States. Our allies around the world, surely Mexico had worked with President Trump to come up with a good plan, the Remain in Mexico policy. But think about this too, Brian. You've got now at least 6 people on the terrorist watch list that have been caught. They won't tell us how many more. No doubt there's many more that have come across our border. And this isn't from Central and South America. This is from Middle Eastern countries, other nations where they have people on the terrorist watch list that know there is a porous southern border. And if you want to come and do harm to America, it's free reign. It's open season. And this is dangerous for America. And it's even more dangerous for these kids that President Biden's policies have encouraged to come across, make the trek, and get sexually assaulted along the way.
So when you look at Joe Biden's approval ratings, they're pretty high when it comes to that $1.9 trillion, inexplicably because we don't have the money. Now he wants $2.2 trillion. People are going to get some money out of that. When it comes to immigration, it's in its 40s. I don't even have 4 out of 10 people that think this is going well. You want to solve the problem. There are Democrats that want to solve the problem, like Cuellar and Gonzalez. Congressman, is there something you can do at the legislative level and get to the Secretary Mayorkas to close the gaps in the wall, to cut a deal that works, that was working with Mexico, to deal with the Triangle countries? Because this is really causing a problem in America, let alone what's going on in these facilities. These people are not getting papers. They're being brought through like a revolving door. What can you do?
Yeah, and look, there's bipartisan interest in solving this. I think more and more members recognize it's a crisis. You see Henry Cuellar, a Democrat, as well as others that are expressing outrage with President Biden's decision to create this. But you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Again, the Remain in Mexico policy was working. Maybe just because Donald Trump came up with it, Joe Biden can call it his own idea and then redo what President Trump did that was working with Mexico. Mexico was not only defending our southern border, they were defending their own southern border and paying for it, and it was stopping that flow of migrants. They can't even handle this surge that's coming across our border. They're taking over military bases, the Dallas Convention Center, all of them are getting overrun. And the people on the ground are telling you they can't control it. It's got to stop. Joe Biden needs to reverse this deadly, devastating policy.
As bad as things were, President Trump never told Border Patrol don't talk to people. He never told the officials, the sheriffs, not to talk to people. They've been hushed at Border Patrol. The only thing they could do is tell you the story, and then you can tell it here. So we look forward to getting your impressions when you're done. Congressman, thanks so much.
All right.
Great being with you, Brian. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm just going to continue on. So I want y'all to get a bird's eye view of how terrible this crisis is and the burden on this country.
The blue and red flashing lights atop U.S. Border Patrol vehicles illuminated the scene under the night sky in Texas this week, where a group of migrants who crossed the border illegally were apprehended and taken into custody. To deter such crossings, U.S. policy is to quickly expel single adults and families to Mexico. But U.S. government data show that out of nearly 53,000 parents and children caught crossing the southern border in March, Just under a third, about 17,000, were deported. The rest were placed in U.S. immigration proceedings. That fact undercuts a claim made by President Joe Biden in March.
We're sending back the vast majority of the families that are coming. We're trying to work out now with Mexico their willingness to take more of those families back. But that's what's happening. They're not getting across the border.
The White House clarified that expulsions under what's called Title 42, a pandemic-related measure invoked by President Donald Trump, don't always happen. In a statement, a spokesman said, quote, "In the event that Mexico is not able to receive an individual or a family, they are placed in immigration proceedings in the United States." The U.S. is not expelling, as a rule, unaccompanied children. Border agents caught about 19,000 such minors in March. Video released by Customs and Border Protection shows an officer encountering a frightened 10-year-old Nicaraguan boy alone, asking for help. He told the agent he was without his parents, left behind by a larger group. CBP said the child was taken for medical screening and will be transferred to the custody of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Biden has defended his administration's handling of a rise in border crossings in recent months. Republicans have criticized Biden, a Democrat, for easing some Trump-era restrictions, arguing his policies have encouraged illegal immigration. Biden and his top officials have blamed Trump for dismantling systems to receive asylum seekers and unaccompanied minors. Overall, more than 172,000 migrants were caught at the U.S.-Mexico border in March, the highest monthly tally since March 2001.
Now that is amazing. That is amazing. You know what? Like I said, we get conflicting reports, so we don't know what the hell's going on. We're being told that the vast majority of them are being turned back around, and they're trying to work with the government and stuff. And what the hell is that government doing? See, the thing that gets me about this is none of these people even voted Biden in, and you're sitting up there worried about their problems. And we have a lot of internal problems right here in America, and we're in a pandemic on top of that. And Biden, he don't want to own up to it, but he pretty much let them say, come on in. And then remember when he was talking sideways to the royal family, saying that we were going to have to deal with them. Yes, he said that. Y'all remember that? He said that. Now, let's get into this last video, which just blew me back.
We are looking at grim new records at the southern border. Border officials encountering 172,000 migrants at the border in March, a 71% increase from February. Of those, nearly 19,000 were unaccompanied children, which would be a new record. A new report from the Washington Post says that the Biden administration is spending at least $60 million per week to house migrant minors. Joining me now, former Trump Commerce Department advisor and Illinois congressional candidate, Catalina Lauf. Catalina, good morning to you. Let's start with some of those statistics. They are staggering. This is indeed a crisis at the border. Yet we've got an administration that says they're going to address root causes, they're going to try to do something about it, but they haven't even gone down there.
No, they haven't. And they quite literally campaigned on incentivizing this to happen. So no surprise that these numbers are just through the roof. Jackie, my family came here from Guatemala in the 1980s during their civil war. They still came here the right way. Why? Because they respected law and order. And ultimately, when you have a president and a vice president that campaigned on, you come here, you'll have free everything. We won't have a crackdown at the border. It will welcome you and with open arms. That's going to cause these numbers to go up. And no surprise, I just read recently that these traffickers have also racked in $500 million is what they're getting out of this lawlessness that is happening at the border thanks to the Biden administration. This is gross incompetence. It's clearly political, and it's at the expense of the children. It's the humanitarian crisis, and ultimately also at the expense of the American people.
You know, there are two issues here. Obviously, the trafficking side, that is a business of its own. But I'm really appreciative that you brought up your personal story, because I'm in a similar situation where my mother came to this country many years ago. She came from Iran, and she would tell us as we were growing up what the process was, what they had to do to legally seek, to get immigration status and become a U.S. citizen. She was very proud of that. And so many people are. But you've got an administration right now that is essentially saying, come here, you can stay here, you can skip your court date, and basically blend into society, and then we're going to, pay for you to be here. You look at what's happening in New York with the payments of the COVID, the retroactive, COVID payments to illegal immigrants, and you ask yourself, this is costing a ton of money. We don't even have enough money to pay for the things that American citizens need.
You're absolutely right. And just like your story, Jackie, your mother coming from Iran, I mean, the American dream success story comes with people like our mothers that, my mom worked 3 jobs to get here. She wanted to create her American dream the right way. She learned English. She assimilated. And a lot of our immigrants want to do that as well. But you have this administration, again, Democrats that pander for political reasons to try to get people to come here illegally, again, at the expense of the American taxpayer, at the expense of safety and security for everybody involved. And exactly like you mentioned, it's not just a nationwide issue. This is happening in states. I come from Illinois, where immigration is a huge policy question that people are asking. Why? Because just like in New York City, ultimately taxpayers are paying for it. Our county jails are flooded with ICE detainees. There's a massive cost to this. And it's something that the Democrats need to figure out, and both sides of the aisle need to figure out and crack down on what's happening at the border. Yeah. Ultimately, the Trump era policies work.
I will just reiterate that statistic. $60 million a week is what we are spending as a nation to house the migrant minors. But I do want to, while I have you here, switch gears for a moment, because President Joe Biden is planning to meet with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle next week to discuss his infrastructure plan. So more spending. The White House saying that they're still aiming for bipartisan support on the $2.3 trillion package, which includes billions of dollars on research and development and long-term care for the elderly, among other unrelated infrastructure, unrelated to infrastructure items. Catalina, bipartisan support on this, is it possible? Do you think the president is going to make some concessions here and go to the other side of the aisle and say, we can do this together? Or they're just going to take the route of reconciliation and say, we're going to do it our way?
They are trying to push this Keynesian economic dream that the Democrats have had for a long time. You have a $1 trillion COVID relief package that this last one, we don't know what exactly went to COVID relief. Now this infrastructure bill has the same questions coming up. What is exactly going into infrastructure? And the truth is, it's not. This is just a way for them to push more government spending. And ultimately, I just read Janet Yellen, her op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, criticizing the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. This is just one step to try to roll back Trump-era pro-growth policies that actually saw companies, small, large businesses, the American worker thriving under those pro-growth policies. The Democrats are completely trying to do regressive policies. We've been hearing this stuff, like in Illinois, for example, our taxes have been raised year after year, all under the guise of infrastructure, yet our schools and our roads are still awful.
Yeah. Catalina Lafayette, you bring up some great points. Great to see you this morning, and good luck in your race.
All righty, my royal family. Well, one thing that I know for sure, the royal family not going to see a dime of any of that. Like I said in the beginning, they claim we disproportionately are being affected most by many, many things in America, but we don't see the money coming to the community. And then they want to guilt us in this particular situation. What the hell is the Mexican government doing? Just playing on people's heartstrings. Because trust and believe, my royal family, something funky happened in this country, those people will wash their ass right back. They do it all the time. They really do. So this is another example of our ADOS money being give to others. It ain't nothing new to us. We know how y'all get down in America. So anyway, my royal family, render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And it's always my royal family. I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.